In an Amish pantry, nothing runs out and nothing goes bad. These families have spent generations building a stockpile that laughs at power outages and supply chain failures. Here are the 20 items they never stop keeping and why every household should do the same. Raw honey. Archaeologists found honey inside Egyptian tombs that was over 3,000 years old and it was still edible. The Amish have always known this. Every Amish household keeps raw honey on the shelf, and many maintain their own hives. Honey never expires because its low moisture content and natural hydrogen peroxide make it impossible for bacteria to survive. Store it in a sealed glass jar and it will outlive you. Canning and pickling salt. Salt is older than civilization itself, and pure canning salt, the kind Amish women keep in 50-pound bags in their cellars, has no expiration date. Unlike table salt, it contains no iodine or anti-caking additives that discolor brines or compromise flavor. The Amish use it for preserving meats, fermenting vegetables, and making pickles that last 3 years in a sealed jar. Buy pure canning salt, store it in a sealed container, and you will never be without this essential. White rice. Walk into any Amish home in Lancaster County, and you will find sealed buckets of white rice stacked in the corner of the cellar. When stored in airtight containers in a cool, dry location, white rice has a documented shelf life of over 25 years. The reason is simple. Unlike brown rice, white rice has had its bran layer removed, which eliminates the natural oils that cause spoilage. Amish families use it as a base for soups, stews, and casseroles throughout the winter months. A 5-gallon bucket with an oxygen absorber is all it takes. White granulated sugar. There is a reason Amish women buy sugar in 25-pound bags. Pure white granulated sugar, kept dry and sealed away from moisture, has an indefinite shelf life. It will not grow bacteria, mold, or anything else because its low moisture content makes it completely inhospitable to microbial life. The Amish use it constantly in preserving fruits, baking bread, sweetening pies, and making jams that line their cellar shelves in long rows of glass jars. It may clump over time, but clumping is not spoilage. Break it apart and it is exactly as good as the day it was poured. Keep it in sealed buckets, away from humidity. Apple cider vinegar. The Amish do not just drink apple cider vinegar for health, they use it to preserve everything from cucumbers to beets to hard-boiled eggs. Raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar is self-preserving. Its high acidity creates an environment where harmful bacteria simply cannot survive, which means the vinegar itself stays good indefinitely. The mother that cloudy culture floating at the bottom is not a sign of spoilage. It is a sign of quality. Amish mothers use apple cider vinegar in pickling brines, salad dressings, and as a natural cleaning agent in the kitchen. 1 gallon stored in a cool, dark place will serve a household for years without degrading. Hard winter wheat berries. Most people buy flour, and the Amish buy wheat berries, and the difference matters more than most realize. Flour goes rancid within months because the germ and bran oils begin to oxidize once the grain is ground. Wheat berries, kept whole, do not have this problem. Stored in food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers, hard winter wheat berries remain viable for 25 to 30 years. Amish women grind only what they need, when they need it, using hand-cranked stone mills. The result is fresher and more nutritious bread than anything sold in a store. If you want to stockpile grain the right way, start with wheat berries, never with flour. Dried beans. No Amish cellar is without several varieties of dried beans, navy beans, kidney beans, black beans, and pinto beans stacked in sealed containers along the lower shelves. Dried beans are among the most complete long-term foods available, high in protein, high in fiber, filling, and shelf-stable for decades when kept in airtight conditions away from moisture and light. The Amish soak them overnight before cooking, which revives their texture completely. A pot of bean soup in an Amish kitchen in January comes from beans that may have been stored the previous harvest season or even longer. They are cheap, filling, and essentially permanent. Distilled white vinegar. While apple cider vinegar gets most of the attention, distilled white vinegar is the quiet workhorse of the Amish pantry and the most versatile item on this list. Its acidity, typically around 5%, is high enough to stop bacterial growth indefinitely, which means it never expires. The Amish use distilled white vinegar for canning, pickling, cleaning surfaces, removing hard water stains, and treating minor skin irritations. A gallon costs less than $2. Stored in a sealed jug in a cool location, it remains at full potency for as long as you keep it. Most households should have at minimum 6 gallons stored at any given time. Baking soda. Baking soda is one of those items the Amish keep in large quantities and rarely think twice about. Chemically, pure sodium bicarbonate does not degrade. It remains stable indefinitely when stored away from moisture and strong odors. In an Amish kitchen, baking soda is used daily in breads and biscuits, and it doubles as a cleaning agent, a deodorizer, and a remedy for mild stomach acid. The only thing that changes in old baking soda is its leavening potency, which fades very slowly over years. For storage and non-baking uses, it lasts essentially forever. Buy it in bulk, seal it in airtight containers, and forget about it entirely. Whole peppercorns and spices. Amish women do not buy pre-ground pepper from the grocery store. They buy whole peppercorns in bulk and grind them fresh by hand. This matters because whole spices, peppercorn, cinnamon sticks, cloves, allspice, and dried chili flakes hold their potency and flavor far longer than their ground counterparts. Ground pepper loses most of its flavor within 6 months. Whole peppercorns, sealed in a glass jar and kept away from heat and light, remain potent for years. The same is true for whole cloves, nutmeg, coriander seed, and mustard seed. The Amish stock all of these and grind small amounts as needed. Their food tastes richer because of it. Blackstrap molasses. Blackstrap molasses is not a glamorous item, but in an Amish household it earns its place on the shelf several times over. It is the byproduct of the third boiling of sugarcane, which concentrates its mineral content dramatically. Molasses is rich in iron, calcium, magnesium, and potassium in a way that refined white sugar is not. The Amish use it in baking gingerbread, sweetening oatmeal, flavoring beans, and making homemade remedies for various ailments. Sealed properly, blackstrap molasses has an indefinite shelf life. It may crystallize or separate slightly, but stirring it back together restores it completely. A single jar delivers both nutrition and flavor for years. Pure vanilla extract. Real vanilla extract, not the imitation kind, is made with alcohol, and alcohol is one of nature's most effective preservatives. Pure vanilla extract, when kept in a sealed bottle away from direct light and extreme heat, has an indefinite shelf life. The Amish use it in nearly every baked good they make, from cookies to cakes to custards to sweetbreads. Over time, the flavor of properly stored vanilla extract actually deepens and improves. This is not common knowledge outside traditional baking circles, but it is something the Amish have always understood. Buy pure vanilla extract, not imitation. Store it in a dark cabinet and never worry about it expiring again. Rendered lard. Before industrial vegetable oils flooded the modern kitchen, lard was how the world cooked, baked, and preserved. Amish families still render their own lard from pork fat, and they keep it in sealed crocks stored in their root cellars. Properly rendered and strained lard free of water and impurities has a shelf life of 1 to 2 years at room temperature and significantly longer when kept cold. It does not require refrigeration in cool storage conditions. The Amish use it for frying, baking, pie crusts, seasoning, cast iron cookware, and as a base for salves. Nothing produces a flakier pie crust. In an Amish kitchen, lard is never replaced with shortening. Coconut oil. Coconut oil is one of the few plant-based fats that approaches the shelf stability of animal fats. Because it is almost entirely composed of saturated fatty acids, it does not oxidize and go rancid the way most vegetable oils do. Stored in a sealed glass container in a cool location, unrefined coconut oil has a shelf life of 2 years at minimum and often far longer without meaningful degradation. Some progressive Amish households have incorporated coconut oil into their pantry as a supplement to lard and butter, valuing its versatility in both cooking and home medicine. For long-term stockpiling, coconut oil outperforms every other plant-based cooking fat on the shelf. Non-fat powdered milk. Fresh milk does not keep without refrigeration, so the Amish have long supplemented their dairy supply with non-fat powdered milk sealed in airtight containers. When stored correctly in sealed metal cans or mylar bags with oxygen absorbers in a cool, dry environment, non-fat dried milk powder has a shelf life of 20 to 25 years. The Amish use it in baking, in cream-based soups, in oatmeal, and in any recipe that calls for milk when fresh dairy is not readily available during winter months. Reconstituting it is as simple as mixing it with water. For any household building a long-term food supply, powdered milk is among the most practical items to keep. Maple syrup. Pure maple syrup, sealed in its original container and stored in a cool, dark place, has an indefinite shelf life. The Amish in maple-producing regions, particularly in Pennsylvania and Ohio, tap their sugar maples each spring and boil the sap down into thick amber syrup that fills their cellar shelves by late March. Like honey, the high sugar concentration of maple syrup creates an inhospitable environment for microbial life. It may crystallize over time, but gentle warming dissolves the crystals completely without any loss of flavor or quality. It serves as both a sweetener and a flavoring in Amish baking, and a sealed mason jar will be just as good in 20 years as it is today. Dried corn kernels. The Amish do not just grow sweet corn for summer eating. They grow flint corn and dent corn specifically for drying, grinding, and long-term storage. Dried corn kernels, stored in sealed containers away from moisture and pests, remain viable for decades. The Amish grind it into cornmeal for bread, polenta, and porridge, and they use whole dried kernels in soups and stews throughout winter. Commercially, dried corn is one of the most overlooked long-term storage foods. Most people are unaware that whole dried corn, properly sealed, can outlast almost everything else in a pantry by many years. It is dense, filling, calorie-rich, and essentially permanent when stored correctly. Cornstarch. Cornstarch is not exciting, but in an Amish kitchen it is irreplaceable. It thickens gravies, sauces, pies, and puddings. It is used in laundry starching, and some Amish mothers apply it to baby skin as a natural powder. Chemically, cornstarch is a stable carbohydrate that does not support microbial growth and does not degrade when kept dry. A sealed container kept away from moisture will remain fully functional indefinitely. It is inexpensive, lightweight, and requires almost no storage space. For long-term pantry building, it fills a role nothing else replaces: the ability to thicken any liquid into a sauce or pie filling without any access to a grocery store. Pressure-sealed home-canned goods. Every item on this list could feed a family for a week, but home-canned goods, rows upon rows of sealed glass jars lining the cellar shelves, are what transform an Amish pantry into a complete food system. The Amish pressure-canned tomatoes, green beans, corn, beets, chicken, beef, soups, and jams each harvest season. A properly pressure-sealed jar eliminates oxygen and heat kills bacteria, creating conditions under which home-canned goods often remain safe and nutritious well beyond 2 to 3 years. The USDA recommends consuming them within 1 year for peak quality, but Amish families have consumed properly sealed jars from 3 and 4 years prior without incident. The jar itself is what makes it last. Dried herbs and whole spices. An Amish woman's spice shelf is not stocked with tiny plastic bottles from the grocery store. It is stocked with hanging bundles of dried rosemary, thyme, oregano, sage, and bay leaves, dried in small batches from her own garden and stored in glass jars with tight lids. Whole dried herbs retain their potency far longer than crushed or powdered versions. Stored away from heat and light, dried whole herbs remain flavorful for 2 to 3 years, and some, like dried bay leaves and whole dried chilies, hold up much longer. Beyond flavor, many dried herbs carry natural antimicrobial properties the Amish have relied on for generations. Grow what you can, dry what you grow, store it in glass. What this means for you. The Amish did not build these pantries in response to a crisis. They built them before any crisis came, and that is the entire point. When an ice storm shut down roads across Lancaster County for 2 weeks last winter, no Amish family went hungry. Not because they were lucky, and not because they had more money than anyone else. They went without hunger because their grandmothers had taught them that a full pantry is not an indulgence, it is a responsibility. Every item on this list shares three qualities. It costs very little per unit, it requires almost no specialized storage equipment, and it addresses a real nutritional need over the long term. You do not need a dedicated bunker or a $5,000 food storage system. You need a cool, dry shelf, some sealed containers, and the discipline to stock it before you need it.